So, what do you want to name your documentary?
A Transcending Journey,
Why that title?
because it is me journeying from one side of this society's expectations to another.
I am a teenage boy who goes by he, they. I'm a demi-boy.
When this statement was made, Arissa was 14 years old and visiting us in Alabama.
A demi boy.
That is the official term for somebody who goes by he pronouns with like he, him pronouns and some other pronouns. It's called a demi-boy.
Sometimes silly, Arissa was mostly serious, especially about gender identity. Arissa made it clear that he and they are the pronouns we should use from now on. Arissa also acknowledged that at birth, Arissa was a girl, and that history cannot be erased.
I went from a little girl who refused to get her hair cut because I was afraid it would make me look like a boy, to actively trying to be a boy. So that's fun. Confusing sometimes to myself, but fun.
Arissa, she's had a complicated life, mostly due to family issues. When her mother and father broke up, they asked us to keep her. There was no time limit, nothing definite discussed in the beginning, and that caused us some problems down the road. But we did what families do when a family member is in crisis. We stepped up to be a support system. During the years that Arissa was with us, Peter would sometimes come visit, and then other times Jesse would come visit. We enrolled her in a private school in Montgomery, and she was a star in her pre-kindergarten class. When she lived with us, she was passionate about animals. We gave her love and everything else that went with being in a stable home. She was such a happy child, always smiling. In 2015, my mother had a heart attack in Detroit, and I was caught between a rock and a hard place. My mother needed her daughter, and Arissa needed me too. I had to make a quick decision that would keep everybody safe. So I sent Arissa to her father in Houston. My mother did recover, but has suffered a series of health challenges, and Arissa has continued to live primarily in Houston with Peter, Jenny, Yusuf, and Aaliyah. Arissa was pretty much the same over the years, but then she turned 11.
I got my first smartphone at age 11.
And then what happened? How did you use that phone?
I started exploring the internet and I ended down a rabbit hole that led to the LGBTQ plus community, and I identified with some of the characteristics, not immediately, but after a little while I did identify with some of them. It first came up when I was looking at a content creator. His name is Thomas Sanders. He is a gay man who creates mental health content, but he puts it in a way that makes it easy for younger audiences to be able to digest. So it isn't, it talks about how to help with anxiety attacks or panic attacks, or when you're not feeling up to speed with people that you should be, or when you're not communicating enough. He breaks down things like this with funny characters who each have their own names and their own personalities.
So how did you discover Mr. Saunders at age 11?
I first saw like a little video that was like a
compilation of some of the funny quotes that his characters had said. So I decided to look it up. I watched the first episode and I just loved it. So I just started watching it.
And from there, you identified with the LGBTQ community?
From there, he posted about the LGBTQ community. So I decided to kind of explore with some of that. I found another content creator who makes a lot of LGBTQ content, even though he himself is not LGBTQ+. He is just a very heavy supporter. So I watched some of his content a little bit later on, and I just loved it. The community was fun, and it was warm, and it was a safe space for a lot of people. So I said that I was an ally at first, and then I came out as bisexual myself, and then I started questioning my gender identity, and I now identify at the moment with he, they pronouns.
So the phone expanded your horizons about life and the people in this world and new ways of thinking and behaving and even identifying because of what?
Because my own natural curiosity. I wanted to end down a rabbit hole and look for things, and I ended up finding one. A good one.
Do you understand why your family might be a little bit confused by all of this?
I understand how they can hear the word sexual in a word and be cautious because I am a child, but when it comes to sexuality, bisexual or pansexual doesn't just mean sex. It means love. It means who you are attracted to. You, my grandmother, are heterosexual. You like men. That doesn't just mean that you carnally desire them. It just means that you date and you are married to a man. You love men, but not anybody else who identifies as anything different. I am bisexual, or I think I am, bi or pansexual, which means I am attracted to people of different gender identities than my own.
So you're the child in this experience, but you've got to lead the adults in your life.
That's what comes with being one of the new generations. That's why I'm kind of scared of growing up, because being a child in the new generation, or in Gen Z, kind of means that when it's time for us to come forward, it will be time for us to lead everybody else, and that kind of intimidates me. But when it comes to teaching people, I do say that I would be very aggressive about it, but in reality I am kind because I realize this is all new to the older generation.
Do you plan to have surgery to change your genitalia?
I do not plan on it. I was asked if there's a middle ground between surgery or binding or not binding, and the answer is binding is the middle ground. Surgery is what some people will do to feel more secure about their masculine or gender-neutral bodies. I just want to bind my chest area so that I can feel or see how I feel about it. But considering I don't officially have a binder, it is kind of hard. But I do have artificial substitutes for that.
Binding is something you use to flatten your chest, am I correct?
Yes.
And you want to do that to give yourself the appearance of being more boyish.
Yes.
But it may not be permanent.
It may not be permanent now.
So your family is really getting to know you and this side of you, which is your gender identity, as well as your empathy for people who have been marginalized in this country. How did you, as a 14-year-old, come to these very heavy decisions?
A lot of people will say that children spend too much time on their phones, which some of us do, yes. But when I'm on my phone, I'm usually I'm communicating with friends who need the communication to remember that they're not alone because they have not so supportive families. Or I'm looking at or researching civil rights or anything else like that, like bills that have passed that are negative for several communities.
Have you had the conversation about your gender identity with your therapist?
I have. My therapist was the first person I told. The first adult I told.
And what was her response?
She was confused but accepting.
You know, I came out to, like, my mom, and in front of children she still called me her daughter. You know.
What do you mean when you refer to me? What did I do?
I mean, just today, while I was getting my hair cut, and you called me your granddaughter again. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I still, I know it still takes some time, but, you know, sometimes sometimes I have slightly higher hopes, I guess.
Well, I've known you.
As a girl my entire life, 14 plus years, I know. And it will be hard to transition from female pronoun, or from she, her pronouns to he, they pronouns. I'm just all of that shebang. I know about
Or
it.
to neutral words like grandchild. Any nervousness about going back to school this fall?
Getting treated differently by my peers. Which bathroom I'll go to. Hopefully they'll have a gender neutral one. If not, I'll just go to the girl bathrooms. Getting treated differently by the teachers. But that's honestly kind of about it.